Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today I want to present Code 292 Introduction to Environmental Economics. All right, so of course, this is like a combined course. So we are doing a little bit of environmental management, then we are doing a little bit of economics. All right, so economics of environmental science or environmental management. Basically, that is what we're looking at. So we go straight to Module 1, Introduction to Environmental Economics. So we're looking at the meaning, definition, and scope of environmental economics. All right, Introduction 1.0. In the early tradition of economic thought, laid down by classical and neoclassical economists, economics was conceived as a study of the allocation of scarce resources among alternatives, competing ends, in the quest to satisfy human wants. I'm sure you have taken economics, at one level or the other, maybe at secondary school or as part of your tertiary education. One way or the other, most of us have come across economics. I will know that economics is a social science, right? Basically concerned about allocation of scarce resources, all right? So resources are relatively scarce, no matter how abundant you think they might be, especially when you have competing, conflicting wants and desires. And like they told us then, all right, so you have human wants being insatiable, okay? So somebody, you give somebody water, okay? So for some time he's satisfied with water. After some time he wants Fanta. After some time from Fanta he wants something else, all right? And like that, like that, like that. So of course you have when you're talking of drinks, we have thousands, tens of thousands types of drinks all over the world. The same thing with food. All right. So the same thing with food. So somebody that has been eating bread and beans, all right, maybe as a junior worker, then you get promotion. Okay, very good example. Our uh, the core members in Nigeria, all right, the NYC people, all right. So recently they got their monthly allowance, raised from 33,000 to 77,000. Now you can see the noise all over the social media and everything. All right, so somebody that have been eating maybe, all right, so so a food of 1,000 naira per plate is now thinking of eating 2,500, and that's how it is basically. So the resources are limited, but the wants, all right, are so unlimited. And so we have to draw what we call a scale of preference, right? We have to draw a scale of preference so that we will now look at the scale of preference so that we can prioritize and determine which of the ones, all right, are most important to us to match against or to map against the scarce resources. So the classical and neoclassical economics underestimated the environmental issues of production and consumption, since they considered these as social issues. All right. Consequently, the impacts of production and consumption on the natural environment were not explicitly brought into the mainstream of economic theory. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so like I said, many of us have done economics at one level or the other. Personally, I've done economics. I did economics in secondary school. I did economics, as a study, as a subject, when I was, pursuing my charter accountancy. All right. My quest to be a chartered accountant, I did it in foundation. All right. So I've come across economics on several fronts. Okay. But I've not seen. All right. Maybe at a later stage when I now move into environmental science. All right. and technology and management. That's when I started seeing environmental economics. So it's more or less, a recent quote and unquote development, basically. That's what they're trying to pass across it. So when you are looking at economics generally, look at all the textbooks of economics you have seen, all right, growing up. It is going to be very rare for you to say environmental economics there. So if you see things like microeconomics, if you see things like macroeconomics, all right, factors of production, things like that, all right, location of industries, localization of industries, all right, laws of demand and supply. Okay, so population theories and so on. Those are the things you see in most, textbooks of economics. All right, maybe the quantitative aspects, econometrics, and the rest of them. All right, um, until recently, all right. There are people now, economists now start looking at it. All right. How does the environment interact, right, with our our economic pursuits? And believe you me, all right, this is real. This is real. Look at what happened in Niger Delta, all right, several years ago. All right, how environmental issues affected the economics of the region. All right, so you have farmers that cannot go to farm, all right, because the environment, the soil is polluted, all right, with crude oil spillage. The farmers, the fishermen cannot fish because the fishes are dead, all right, through water pollution from oil spillage. Okay, and of course, that led to loss of agitation, right? And you have cases of oil companies being shut down, right? Uh, Due to the spin-offs and so on and so on. So that's a an example of how the environmental developments, all right, can actually affect the economics of a region. And of course, when in Nigeria we depend so much on crude oil, and so once Niger Delta is down, you know what that means to our national income. So at the macro level, it's going to affect the country as a whole. In fact, even the whole world is going to be affected, all right? Nigeria being a member of OPEC. So what we're saying is basically there's a relationship between the environment and the economy of a region, the economic of the nation, the economics of our souls. All right. So the environment was taken as given and can last ad infinitum. So we assumed some years ago that this world we can just continue, all right, to just enjoy and just use and use and use, and maybe even abuse. All right. But now we are having a lot of extinctions. So you have species of, I read of a plant that during the Roman Empire that they priced so much, and the plants went extinct. So the Romans, they really prioritize, they really like that particular plant, and it's like basically like a something that everyone that is rich, that is powerful. I think even the last plant was given to the Roman emperor, all right, to see how much they price it. But that plant went extinct, all right, because people are pursuing it, people prioritize it. So everywhere it is seen, they want to harvest it. But they were not regenerating, they were not replanting. So you have basically consumption being more than the supply of that particular plant. And so it goes extinct. All right. And the same thing with animals. So we have endangered species all over the place. They will tell you this particular species is only two remaining. This one is only 500 remaining. This species of animal is only 10. All right, there is even one I read about. There is just one. All right, one, a subspecies. All right, just one remaining. So what does that mean? That means in few years that species is gone. All right. So we believe, oh, once you call a country oil, a oil producing country, so it's given that that country is going to be oil producing forever. It's not true. So it was an assumption then, all right, when nations were being formed. All right. So when you just see oil, you just believe that you just continue to drill for the oil forever. When you see gas, you continue to drill for gas forever. Well, no, it's not true. The reality is not staring us in the face that that's why we now call them, that's why we now have renewable energy, all right, and non-renewable energy, all right. So they are wasting resources. So that reality is now what is making us to take environmental economics very seriously. So in the early 1970s, the reality of economic thought brought to a halt the perception of economics merely as a science of production and distribution. So in the new thinking, economics is no longer perceived as the science of production and distribution. We neglect the environmental consequences, the environmental repercussions, all right, or the environmental impacts of economic activities. This means that economics as a subject cannot exist in isolation. So you discover diamond in an environment, you see that all over Africa, right? So you discover diamond, and so people, miners go in and start exploring. And now we're now having earthquakes. All right, South Africa experienced earthquakes some years back. There was a tremor in Abuja, all right, some years back, all right, and that's not a very good sign. That's not a very good sign. And the tremor was associated with mining activities. All right, that's in Abuja. Of course, South Africa, they have a lot of mines. So you can easily see. So those mining activities, you are upsetting you know, the geology of the underground, right? So basically, you're basically upsetting the balance, all right, uh, of the environment, okay, beneath the earth. And so that is now causing tremors, causing what is it called? Causing uh, uh, earthquakes all over the place. All right. What about the conflicts? All right. So even some of these resources have brought conflicts. All right. I don't want to dwell too much on that, but it's there in the open. All right. Conflicts have been brought, all right, by the exploration or the harnessing of these natural resources. So it is now very, very important for us, all right, to be able to see the nexus, all right, between our economic activities and the environment. And so it might get to a point that the environment will not be able to support us again. All right. So like the environment rebelling. So what, so the environment can rebel, quote and unquote. That's why you have earthquakes, you have tremor, sometimes you have tsunamis, because the environmental balance is upset. All right, has been, the equilibrium, the ecological equilibrium has been thrown off, and so things go wrong. All right, so it must take into consideration the effects of resource use in production and distribution on the natural environment which supplies these resource inputs. And I think that's one of the things that OPEC is trying to do. All right, the Organization of Petroleum Exports in a country. So they regulate production. All right. So I think their own is more concerned about pricing and things like that, to make sure you don't have too much of it in the market, and not don't have too little of the oil in the market. But of course, all right, you also need, as a oil producing country. I'm just using oil as an example. It affects basically every other natural resource. All right. So you have to consider, all right, the impact. I know that I read somewhere, in US, there are some regions where they have found oil, especially offshore. That by law, oil companies are not allowed to explore there. I read it, right? So they, yes, they have oil, but because they don't want to upset the environment, all right, in those high seas. Okay, of course, when you start drilling, a lot of things are going to, like I said, a lot of things are going to be thrown off balance. All right, temperature of the water bodies. All right, acidity, alkalinity, because they're going to be using mud. What about the noise? All right, the high noise. Okay, so a lot of things are going to be affected. You're going to have a lot of chemicals being thrown into the waters, really more than the rest of it. And even the crude oil, when it is being brought up, all right, likely explosions, all right. So many things, so many things, all right. And so they say, yes, we have oil here, but because we want to protect the environment, we are not giving you license, we are not giving anybody permission to drill those oil. All right. So that's what basically what we're talking about. So any study on the economic content of production, distribution, consumption, development cannot be completed without touching upon the environmental aspects like pollution of the environment. So water pollution, for example, air pollution. All right. Some years back, I think things have it has improved now, hopefully. So in Morocco, to see suits all over the hair. So basically, people are just breathing in, suits. And of course, the medical guys will know that that means people are exposed to cancer, lung cancer. All right. So because carbon, soot is made up of carbon. So if we are inhaling soot, all right, it gets to a particular threshold in the body that it starts reacting, with the body system, and that's dangerous. So environmental damage, environmental resource exhaustion, and depletion. So the oil can finish, the gold can finish, the diamond can finish, the coal can finish. So whatever you are trying to, you are excavating, it can finish. And once it finishes, what happens to the economy? All right. So I think I read somewhere, is it one of these African countries, all right, that, a desert, is it Namibia or so, where they once had a place like a city. So it's a ghost city now, where it was a diamond site. So they have all manner of facilities all over the place. It was a modern city, all right, because the diamond was there. And now the diamond is finished, right? And so everybody, the city is now, they now use it for tourist center. So it is now, and an admin, all right? So a bubbling city before. Now, that economy basically went down. So imagine people that were there before, people that they are offering one services or the other in that location before. Now that the diamond is finished, everything is gone. Okay. So this is what we are talking. This is what we are talking about basically. So the resource that is being harvested can actually finish. What that simply means is that it's going to have an impact basically on the economy of that environment. So resource exhaustion or depletion, global warming, biodiversity, social externalities, and the likes. In order to account for the environmental impact of economic activities, a new field of study called environmental economics does emerge. All right, so the call for an evaluation of environmental impact of economic activities necessitates the regulation of these activities for environmental sustainability. So, like we're basically saying, all right, it's now becoming very, very important to us that we look at the environmental impact of economic activities. So it's not just that, oh, there is a diamond there, let's go, or there is gold here, all right, let's go. How is it going to affect? All right, like we have what we call social impacts assessment. Sometimes it even goes beyond the what we call the hard issues. All right, what about the soft issues? What about the social impacts? All right. So there is a field called social impact assessment of projects, of activities. All right. How will these projects affect the social life of the people? All right. The religious practices. All right. So you're going to move maybe expatriates, all right, to an area. You're going to move expatriates, all right, and they are mostly of another faith. How will that, all right, how will that affect the faith, the belief? Well, how will it affect the culture of the people? All right. So whatever project you are citing, whatever economic activities you are doing, how will it affect the current economy of the people, the lifestyle of the people? All right. Maybe you are going to bring large equipment that are going to be making lots of noise in the night. So we have cases of like that. So yes, you have brought economic revolution, but people can't sleep. People can't sleep. It becomes an issue. So social impact, environmental impact of the activities. This regulation therefore brings into fore the issue of environmental policy, which nearly all countries all over the world now spend resources to formulate at national and international levels. So environmental economics can be seen as an applied part, all right, of the economics which deals with entrepreneurship between economic activities and the environment and studies the way and means by which the former is not impeded nor the latter impaired. So what want a balance, right? We want a balance between environment, economic activities and the environment. We want a balance. Yes, uh, unless they have for economic purpose, but don't abuse the health. All right, especially because it's not just about you. There's a coming generation after you, right? You're going to have children. Your children are going to have children. Their children are going to have children. All right. Hopefully, so in 1,000 years, this earth is still sustaining people. All right. But by the time we kill all the cows, kill all the sheep, all right, we eat all the elephants, eat all the. All right. So look at poaching, for example, the activities of poachers, the activities of poachers. All right, so they kill and kill and kill and say, okay, the tusks of elephants has medicinal value. All right, the skin of alligator and crocodile can be used for belt and shoes. So what do? We keep on killing them. All right, so we need the skin of snakes for shoes, for belts. All right, and so we keep on, we keep on, we keep on, we keep on. So this particular plant has medicinal value. So what do? We harvest, we harvest, we harvest. Yes, we are making the money. The country's GDP is rising, but for how long? All right, for how long? So the moment that resource is exhausted, all right, then the economies go back to zero. So environmental economics is concerned with the analysis of the impact of the economy on the environment, the significance of the environment to the economy, and appropriate way of regulating economic activity so that balance is achieved among environmental, economic, and social objectives. I'm talking about social impact in our assessment. All right, that's so it's not just about citing projects. I said this project, the country or the company is going to make $1 billion. $1 billion, yes. At what expense? At what expense? At what expense? All right. So now we have ESG, right? Um, Environment, social, and governance. All right. ESG is now being prioritized in most organizations. All right. So, how have you been able to strike a balance between your corporate objectives and the environment? And the quality of life of your host community, the quality of life of your staff. Okay. It should be noted that environmental study requires a synthesis of the various branches of knowledge like science, economics, philosophy, ethics, anthropology. Like you can see, as I've been talking, so you can't be talking about environmental economics. There is an engineering aspect of it. All right. So, for example, now look at, for example, generators. So the new generation generators, the emphasis is now being placed on silence. They want to make them as silent as possible. So they are coming up with these generators being in enclosures that can absorb noise. All right, they call it acoustic, right? So that's what we're talking about. Yes, we're going to use generators. We're bringing generators on site, but the generators are going to come with less noise. But we're going to bring equipments, all right, on site. But those equipments are going to have as low carbon emission as possible. All right, that's the engineering aspect of what we are talking about. All right, so there's an engineering aspect, there's a science aspect. All right, so a lot of research is going on how we can do things better or do more with less, do more with less noise, do more with less fuel, less fossil fuel, and so on. So economics, philosophy, ethics, anthropology. All right. So a lot of branches of knowledge are coming together to make environmental economics a reality. So therefore, the study of the environment may be approached from different perspectives, and environmental economics may borrow from such perspectives in its analysis. Environmental and natural resources should be allocated in the same way we want to allocate all resources, that is efficiently and equitably. All right? In this sense, there's no theoretical need to have a separate course for natural and environmental resources. Then why do we do courses in environmental and natural resource economics? All right, economic analysis of the environment is challenging and important precisely because environmental value is not always conveniently revealed in the market and thus is subject to inappropriate use. Indeed, lots of people are particularly worried about the allocation of environmental and natural resources. So, of course, the awareness is increasing globally about how companies, corporations exploit the environment. And that's why people are now insisting. In fact, in some countries, it's now by law, you must produce sustainability reports as a company. So it's not just your financial reports or your statement of financial reports, your income statements, and so on. It goes beyond that now. And your external auditors must also review your sustainability reports. And some companies too are doing it willingly, producing sustainability reports to show, how they've been able to harness the environment, all right, judiciously, efficiently, and conscientiously. All right. So how their operations have affected, all right, the social life of their workers, the social life of the society. All right. The CSR projects they've done, corporate social responsibility projects they've done, and so on and so forth. So there is increased pressure on everywhere globally. All right. So you have eco labels now on products. You have eco labels on products. All right. Where you have an independent assessor go through your processing procedures and technologies and determine whether your engineering, your production is eco-friendly before they can give you that eco label. And believe you me, there are some people all over the world now that only buy or mostly buy products with that eco label. They want to be able to satisfy their conscience that this product they are buying, they've not destroyed the environment. So now you have some companies that they have to cut down trees, all right, to get their product, maybe paper production, all right, paper production companies. And so you will see a label on their products that for every tree that is cut down to make these products, 2 trees were planted. I'm sure you have seen that. I'm sure you have seen that. I'm sure you'll have seen also in some video productions, movie production, you will see a documentary, they will say no animal was killed in this production. So you will see some, maybe you see them, all right, shooting elephants or shooting tigers, all right, or capturing animals as part of the plot of a movie. Then at the end, you write clearly. It's because now, questions are being asked. Questions are being asked. Questions are being asked. And if you look around, I'm sure you would have seen, all right, on the internet, how the customs or the immigration of one country stops the importation of certain skins of some animals, or even some wild animals that they are trying to smuggle into the country or out of the country. I've read several. I've read several of that. I'm sure you will have read several of that. So what we are saying is now that more than ever before, there is a consciousness. All right, more than ever before, there is a consciousness on uh, environmental sustainability. All right, for especially for corporate organizations and even nations, basically. All right. Um, so a lot of people think that they are being misallocated. These are generated some concerns we gave credence to the separate treatment of environmental and natural resources. Some of these concerns are number one, natural resources are finite and stocks are dwindling. So maybe so basically what that is saying is that natural resources are finite and stocks are dwindling. So what that simply means is that you know the resources will not be there forever. Okay, the resources will not be there forever. I think I've emphasized this. So that's why we call them non-renewable. All right, they're not renewable. So the fact that a country has crude oil, all right, 100 years ago, does not mean you always have crude oil. All right, you have gas. That does not mean you always have gas. I've mentioned, all right, the case of a particular region in Africa where they used to have diamond. And now that diamond mine has closed down, all right, and the surrounding economics too have shut down, all right. Increasing concern about non-catastrophic pollution. This is all from increasing information about the effect of pollutant on health, all right. Like I've said, case of soot in the air. People are now more conscious of it. Before, all those things would just be taken as given, all right, gas flaring. People are now more concerned about acid rain. Acid rain will not kill you immediately. All right, it will not kill you immediately. All right, but if you are exposed to it over time, all right, you can start having skin over, maybe over like 10 years, 15 years, you start reporting incidents of skin cancer and the rest of it. So, number three, concern about catastrophic pollution. That is pollution that could lead to a widespread eco disaster, such as greenhouse effect. Okay, so the depletion of ozone layer, for example, and so on. Radiation from bombs. All right. Um, or leaks. So everybody's afraid of nuclear war. So what happened in Hiroshima, Nagasaki? So what happened in Ukraine some years ago, the old Soviet Union, all right, when a test went wrong, okay, in one of the Soviet Union nuclear plants. That area is evacuated until even till today. Nobody is living there because of the effect of the radiation. All right. I think Japan too had, a tsunami, an earthquake that affected one of their nuclear plants some years ago. Okay. Number four, concerns about over the preservation of natural environment. Okay. So you now want to have, conservation areas. Virtually every country now have that. So green zone areas, we now have that all over the world. All right. Concern over preservation of animal species. I've talked about that. So people are not telling so we now have animals that are being put in what we call sanctuaries, right? We have animals that have been put in sanctuaries to ensure poachers cannot get after them, all right, cannot go after them, and they can reproduce, all right, to replenish their species. Consequently, economics are increasingly being called upon to help guide the process of environmental management and to provide measurable criteria by which environmental policies can be evaluated. So let's talk about the scope of environmental economics. So, like we said, it's an emerging, all right, discipline under economics. All right. So uh, it is now one of the fastest growing fields of study in economics. The growing popularity of this field of inquiry parallels increasing awareness because people are now more aware, right, about the significance of environmental sustainability, environmental protection, all right, and the impact of economic activities on the environment. The nature and scope of the issues addressed in environmental economics are quite varied and all-encompassing. So look at it. Below is a list of some of the major topics addressed in this field of study. All right, so we look at causes of environmental degradation. What are the things that can cause environmental degradation? We'll talk about some of them in this video. All right, so over exploration, for example. All right. So, like I give you example of the plant, a plant that went extinct in Rome during the Roman Empire. So they love the plant so much. All right. I think they were even using it for currencies. So if you have it, you're a big man or big woman at that time. So it went extinct because they overused it. All right. Um, you are using without replacing, right? So you are a paper manufacturing company or you're a furniture manufacturing company. So you go to the forest and you're cutting and you're cutting and you're cutting, right? And there's no replacement. The need to reestablish disciplinary ties between ecology and economics. The difficulty associated with assigning ownership rights to environmental resources. Somebody will tell you that the animals are in the forest now. So what right does the government have to stop them, that is in the forest. So they have the right to go and kill as many animals as possible since they are in the forest. So those kind of arguments can result. The trade-off between environmental degradation and economic goods and services. Like I said, people are now asking questions. Okay, you have a product, does it have eco label? All right, can you guarantee that? Can you show us a proof, an independent assessment that has been done to confirm that your processes are eco-friendly? All right. The ineffectiveness of the market, if left alone in allocating environmental resources, assessing the monetary value of environmental damage. So some of these environmental damage is not easy to put a value on them. All right. For example, now, like the example I just gave, a species of animal or a species of a fish or fishes, all right, went extinct. What is the monetary impact of that? It's tough. All right, it's tough to. So you have to have economic scientists coming up with a model to tell us how much the earth has lost, if all right, or the earth is likely to lose if elephants go extinct globally. Of course, there will be an impact because, of course, you know that elephants or each animal has a place in the ecosystem. It has a role in the ecosystem. Okay, public policy instrument that can be used to slow, halt, and reverse the deterioration of environmental resources. I gave the example of America, right? That there are some areas in America where there is oil offshore. American government has blocked exploration, all right, in those places, just to protect those the eco balance in those ICs. Okay, the macroeconomic effect of environmental regulation and other resource conservative policies. The extent to which technology can be used as a means of ameliorating environmental degradation or resource scarcity. All right, I gave an example of that, right? When I was talking about generators, you can come up with engineering that can make generators smaller, occupy less space. You can come up with engineering that can make equipment, generate less noise, less carbon footprint. All right, so technology definitely has a role to play in environmental economics. So, environmental problems that transcend national boundaries and those require international cooperation for their resolution. Last year in Nigeria, we had a flood in Borno State, right? And it was very bad, right? And from what they were saying, those floods, all right, I think those floods actually originated from outside Nigeria. We've had cases of floods, several floods, in Nigeria that are coming from neighboring countries. All right. So a neighboring country opened their own dam And of course, the dam, as we are bothered, we are bothered, we are bothering them with their, as a nation. And of course, the opening of the dam will affect us, in Nigeria. So sometimes like that, you can have an environmental problem, crossing nations. So in that kind of situation, you're going to need international cooperation agreements, even signed. So like the one that happened in Nigeria now, it means we have to keep our eyes on our neighbors. All right, mom. All right, and sign an agreement. Okay, before you put it down, can you please tell us so that we put certain mitigations, all right, in place, all right, something like that. Okay, so the limits of economic growth. Okay, the extent to which past experience can be used to predict the future events that are characterized by considerable economic, technological, and ecological uncertainty. So, risk management models can also help. Yeah, economic models can also help. So, you can use the past, the present to predict the future. So, if you can be able to create models that can help us to tell us, for example, now we can be able to predict, oh, Nigeria has good oil. At these rates of consumption, how long will this crude oil last Nigeria? We should be able to determine that. So we can start planning. Okay, we have gas. What is the volume of our gas? What is the volume of our gas resources? What is the consumption rate? All right. What is the export rate? How long can it last? All right. So this is needed for planning. This is needed for planning. The interrelationship among population, poverty, and environmental degradation in the developing countries of the world. Of course, there's a connection, right? Population, you have less people, there is less impact on the environment. And as the environment, the population is increasing, all right? Poverty is being, is worsening. So people want to eat anything eatable, like we say in Nigeria. So you see lion, you kill. You see goats, you kill. You see elephant, you kill. You see leopard, you kill. So of course, there's a connection. All right. The necessity and viability of sustainable development. All right. So all these are within the scope of environmental economics. Of course, this is not exhaustive. This is not exhaustive. So the issues in the list do provide important clues to some of the fundamental ways in which the study of environmental economics is different from other subdisciplines in economics. So the list that we have there, which we said is not exhaustive, these are the things that an environmental economics is concerned about. All right. So these are the things that an environmental economics is concerned about. All right. I think looking at it, I think there's a connection between environmental economics and development economics. All right, that is a story for another day. Okay, so first, uh, the ultimate limits to environmental resource availability are imposed by nature, which is true. All right, so we have crude oil in Nigeria. All right, there are some African countries that do not have crude oil. All right, all right. I think Niger has lithium. All right, Niger has lithium. So some of these resources all over the place are imposed by nature. You are not the one that's okay. So you don't really have control over where you find diamond, where you find gold, where you find elephants, where you find tigers. All right, it's basically all these are imposed by nature. So second, most of these resources have no readily available markets. All right. For example, clean air. All right. Where do you want to sell? Everybody likes clean air, but where do you want to sell it? Unless you want to sell to divers. All right. And how many divers do we have in the world? Or people going to people that climb mountains. All right. Ozone, genetic pool of a species. All right. So so you don't really have a readily available market, though of course there are several of these resources that have readily available markets. If you have diamond, if you stumble on diamond today, all right, you know, talk to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 person, you will definitely get a market to sell the diamond. All right. Third, No serious study of environmental economics can be entirely descriptive. All right, we'll talk about that. All right. Um, Normative issues such as intergenerational fairness and distribution of resources between the poor and rich nations are very important. Fourth, uncertainties are unavoidable consideration in any serious study of environmental and natural resource issues. These uncertainties may take several forms, such as prices, irreversible environmental damage, right? Unexpected and sudden species extinctions. Such is the nature of subject matter of environmental economics. All right, so there are uncertainties here and there. So you have oil today, you will not have oil tomorrow. You have gas today, you will not have gas tomorrow. All right, you have diamond today, you will not have diamond tomorrow. So you see this species of animal here, abundant here today. All right, in the next 30 years, they will be gone. All right, killed off, sold off. So all those uncertainties are there. Fine. So that's the end of lecture one. We move to lecture two, structure of the environment. Okay, so the structure of the environment can be described in terms of its interdependent components. Of course, the environment is made up of air, we know that, water, land, living system, and social structure. So there are two aspects that impact on the natural environment. These are atmosphere and social environment. So the atmosphere, all right, include, so the air environment, okay, starting with the air environment. So this includes the air and the atmosphere. The air environment includes the air and the atmosphere. The atmosphere reaches about 550 kilometers from the surface of the earth. Some significance of the atmosphere can outline as follows. All right, A, the atmosphere contains life-supporting gases for plants and animals. Okay, for example, oxygen is there in the air. All right, I think about 21%. Carbon dioxide is also there. All right, nitrogen is there. All right, nitrogen gas present in the atmosphere is an essential component of plants, animals, and microbes. I'm sure you're aware of that. The atmosphere is a shield that protects life on Earth from the hostile conditions from the outer spheres. I'm sure you know we have the ozone layer, right? That shields us from excessive sun rays. D, the atmosphere offers mankind a field of study called meteorology. Meteorology is a study of weather science, right? Weather science that deal with weather and climate change, which have profound influence on other spheres of the environment. 5, a major layer in the atmosphere is the ozone layer, which protects human, plants, and other animals from hazardous radiation from the sun. So the atmosphere is very important for our sustainability, and that's why we must protect the air from excessive pollution due to human activities. All right, we have to protect. All right, determine. That's why you see a lot of emphasis now is being laid on carbon footprints. All right, what you are charging into the air as a factory, as a production company, all right, airline, and so on. We need to be concerned. All right, we need to be concerned. This air is there for our protection. Then we have the water environment, the hydro. Of course, the hydro means water, hydrosphere. So the water environment constitutes 3/4 of the planet Earth, and of course, 3/4 of your body is made up of water. All plants and animals on Earth depend on the availability and quality of water for survival. The importance of water cannot be overemphasized. It includes all forms of life, depend on water for survival. You don't have any choice, all right? Water energizes food particles, which are able to supply the body with energy during digestion. Water increases the rate of absorption of essential substances in food. Water increases the efficiency of red blood cells in collecting oxygen in the lung. Water carries every nutrient, mineral, vitamin, protein, hormone, chemical messenger in the body to its destination. Water is essential to the cleaning process of the body. It cleanses your internal organs, remove toxins, all right, poisons from your bloodstreams. So water is an essential requirement for all agricultural, aquacultural, and industrial activities of man. In the light of the above, we can see that water environment is needed, both from the maintenance and the sustenance of plant and animal. All right, we don't have water, then there is death. All right. And that's why, and even it's not just having water, right? You must have clean water. There was, you know, there was serious conflict between Malaysia and Singapore many years ago. You can check it up because of water. All right, Malaysia basically was in charge, was controlling water supply to Singapore. All right, and they started using it for leverage. All right, Singapore was not buying that. It became a serious issue. All right, and it has to force Singapore to start, start, researching on how to become, independent when it comes to water supply, and they were able to achieve that. Talk about the power of engineering and technology. All right, so water is life, like somebody said. Water is life. All right, so it's not just having water; you need to have clean water. You need to have clean water. So that's why you discharge this into the water bodies. All right, on the long run, we'll get to you. Say, oh, they are just discharging this waste into the ocean. All right, the ocean is connected to a river. The river is connected to, to a stream. The stream is connected to a well. The well is connected to a borehole, and like that, like that, like that. It gets into houses. So it's water is so essential to human life, and that's why we cannot afford to have water polluted. All right, we cannot afford to have water polluted. Then, of course, we have the land environment. All right, so this consists of components like rocks, soil, and other associated constituents. The importance of land resource lies in the fact that it is the source of all our vital requirements. So your building materials, minerals, fuel, soil, wilderness, everything you need for living is on land. And that makes land also very, sacred to us for preservation, that we need to be able to, and of course, all economic activities are running on land. All economic activities are running on land. And that is why we must also protect land from pollution. And there's a connection between land and water. You know that? There's a connection between land and the air. Okay, so we need a lot of regulations, a lot of awareness to curtail, all right, economic activities that can pollute, all right, or contaminate land. All right, biological environment or biosphere. So this consists of all aspects of living. All right, bio means life, right? Bio means life. All right, so if you see biology, log, logis, that logi is from the word logos. Logos means study. So biology means study of life. All right, biosphere. All right, so basically the environment of living things. So microorganisms. All right, macro plants, macro animals. Okay, so it should be noted that humans are a part of the biological environment, and there's a great diversity and uniqueness of life forms inhabiting the biosphere. All right, some are seen, some are not seen. All right, so the fact that maybe you are playing soccer on the field, it doesn't mean that it's only you and your colleagues are on that field. Right in that class, in the grasses, you probably have, ants, all right? You have insects, you have algae, you have, bacteria. They are not seen, but they are there. So the biological environment is the global ecological system integrating all living beings and their interactions among each other and between living things, especially humans and other components of the natural environment. There are two ways in which the biological environment is linked to other components of the natural environment. The first is the dependence of the entire biosphere on itself and other natural environment components. Nobody lives in isolation, right? You're interacting with the air, you're on land, all right? And sometimes you travel on the sea, all right? And of course, you drink water every day. Where do you think they get the water from? Right? Even if it is bottled water, pure water or tap water. So we are interacting with all these life forms, all right, every day. The second is the impact link of the biological environment to itself and other components of the natural environment. So especially human beings. All right, human beings, the impact of human activity on humans and other living things, and even on the ones that are not living, like the land, the air, and the water. So for sustenance of life, the biosphere depends on itself and other spheres of the environment. Some of the ways the biological environment depends on other components of the natural environment are highlighted below. We all depend on the atmosphere to breathe. All right. So once they cut off air, from you, that's asphyxiation, right? Can't breathe. They do that for 5 minutes, the guy drops down, he's dead. All right. So we depend on oxygen. All right. Even photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis. All right. So you have plants absorbing carbon dioxide, all right, from the air and releasing oxygen back to the air, and that oxygen also come back to us for our breathing. And so you have all these cycles, the water cycles, the nitrogen cycles, and other chemical cycles. That's why the earth is the earth. Okay? So hence the atmospheric component of the environment should not be damaged so that both plant and animal, including human life, can continue to receive the support of the atmosphere. Great. Dependence on the hydrosphere. So we depend on the water bodies, right? We depend on the water bodies. Like I said, you can't survive a day without drinking, okay? You must drink water in one form or the other, and that water is gotten from somewhere. All right, maybe from a stream, maybe from a spring, maybe from an ocean, maybe from a sea. All right. Of course, it has gone through some purification. There are people in villages that they get water directly from the ocean, from the sea or from a river. Okay. So we use water for even in our body, 70% of our body is made up of water. Okay. And so we are 100% dependent on water. And not just on water, quality of water. So we want to be able to drink right. All right. We want to be able to ensure that discharges in one way or the other, effluents from industries, all right, to the water bodies are curtailed. I've mentioned it. All right. So you have to check the pH, acidity, alkalinity of discharges into water bodies. So a company is producing, all right, soap, or they're producing, all right, whatever, a chemical, all right, cream, and they have what? They have liquid waste, and there is a river just behind the factory. Are you just going to discharge that waste directly into the water body without checking the pH? What about the temperature? If the temperature is too high and you are discharging to the water bodies, some fishes, some aquatic life cannot survive, all right, at some particular temperature. All right. So you're looking at the temperature of discharges, you're looking at alkalinity, you're looking at acidity, you're looking at threshold of certain chemicals. Lead, for example. All right, lead is a very dangerous chemical. All right, and if it gets into the water bodies, it becomes very problematic. In some years ago in Safara, I think Nigeria lost about 300 kids to lead poisoning due to mining activities. So these things are serious issues. They are serious issues, like a matter of life and death. All right, dependence on the geosphere, on the land. All right, the land and the biological components of natural environment are intimately connected through soil. All right, which consists of a mixture of air, mineral matter, organic matter, water. In this soil is important. So we need soil for our planting, right? Agriculture. You are probably eating today. So whatever you have eaten is gotten from the soil, mostly, right? So then, of course, mineral exploitation, mining activities, all of them are going on land, and they can be abused. They can go to the extreme. All right. So like I give examples. So you can start having, you can have, if these things are not curtailed, if they are not managed, if they are not regulated, all right, mining activities, exploring oil, crude oil exploration activities, can start having things like oil spillage on land, can start having things like earthquake, all right, because you are upsetting the geospheric balance, basically. So all these things, we need to have, to have regulations. We need to have ethics. We need to have policies, right? Sustainability policies within organizations to ensure that economic activities on the geosphere, all right, is in sync, is in balance, all right, with environmental goals. The biological environment is of great significance to us for two principal reasons. Humans are part of the biological environment and so should naturally be concerned about it. Two, the changes that occur in the biosphere itself and in other spheres of natural environment originate from human activities. Most of these things we are talking about is humans. There is one species of animal that is wiped out. How did they get wiped out? It's human beings. All right. There is a species of plant that is now, extinct. It's human beings. Okay. And fishes have died off on a river. All right. It's because of discharges, oil spill, and the rest of it. Okay. So human activities have a lot, of impact on the biological environment. Okay. Then we have the anthroposphere. So the atmosphere is that part of the environment that is made or modified by humans for use in human activities. It's also called the technosphere. All right. As human technology becomes more involved, so do the impacts of human activities on the natural environment. Below are some of the ways that the atmosphere has impacted on other components, atmosphere rather, the atmosphere has impacted on the other components of the natural environment. So how has atmosphere impacted the atmosphere? For example, industrial and um, agricultural activities have changed the composition of the atmosphere. For example, we have increased the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by no less than 26% and doubled the concentration of methane gas. Why? Through technology activities. All right, so we have machines. That's what is called atmospheric activities, human activities using technology. All right, the production of chlorofluorocarbons are depleting the Earth's ozone layer. All right, uh, our natural defense against ultraviolet radiation. So we might start having more, things like skin cancer because of all these machines, equipment, that were industrial activities that is discharging chemicals into the atmosphere. Man has also affected the quality of air because of smog. So you wake up, 10 a.m. in the morning, all right? It's everywhere, it's not clear. You have smog everywhere, all right? So you have chemicals mingle with uh, the liquid in the air. Vehicles can move and it's even dangerous to breathe in. All right. So resulting in respiratory problems. So the atmosphere, how has it affected the water bodies, hydrosphere? Humans have impacted the water environment by withdrawing large amount of groundwater for agriculture and contaminating rivers, lakes, groundwater, and oceans by organic and industrial waste. So you have water bodies under the ground. All right, you have rocks. They call them aquifers. All right, so you have rocks containing water. We have finished, used up what the rivers, used up seas. Now we are going for water bodies, even underneath the hearts. All right. So contaminating rivers. So we do a lot of drilling, mining, and all these is having impact on water bodies, both surface water bodies and underground water bodies. Okay, biosphere. Humans have already altered the biological environment of which they are a part through economic activities. A prime example is the slash and burn agricultural practice in the tropics, where the rainforest is cut and burned and the land is converted to pasture. We are destroying forests, all right? We are destroying forests, leading to what is called, afforestation. So we are destroying forests, right? Clearing lands for development purpose. We want to build factories, we want to build estates, and of course, the green zone areas have to give way. for those developments. All right, geosphere, minerals and energy resources from the land environment have fueled industrial revolution that has permitted human species to increase so prodigiously in number. For example, exploitation of fossil fuels has increased our standard of living, but an unintended consequence of this action will be climate change and global warming. All right. So human activities basically is affecting so many things. The ultimate goal of environmental economics is to minimize the flux of pollutants and or toxic substances across the interface between the astrosphere and other spheres while maintaining a functional technology society. Yes, develop, but do not develop at the cost of the environment. Do not develop at the cost of the future generation. All right, then we'll talk about the social environment. The social environment refers to the combined structure involving human-to-human interactions. I talked about social impact assessment the other time. All right, so the social structure of the human community is made up of the constrained environments, which include the physical, biological, chemical constraints to which human activity is subject. B, infrastructure. So your mode of production, which deals with the technology and the practices employed in expanding or limiting production and the ensuing techno-environmental relationships. Mode of reproduction, which deals with technology and practices employed for expanding, limiting, and maintaining population size. All right. For example, on that too, look at what happened in China many years ago because of the population. All right, and of course they are growing because of the increase in knowledge, improvement in science and technology, improvement in feeding, all right, food quality and things like that. So the population was growing and growing and growing, and up to a point that the government started beginning to get concerned. All right. So in urban city, they said, look, you can't have more than one child. All right. So in urban cities in China at the time, you can't have more than one child. So it's a law. So once you have a child, that's all. Okay. So you can have that. You can have that. And you have in some also some in the other areas of the world where you have aging population, right? Maybe because people are not really so interested in having babies. Then you can go to some other parts of the world where you are experiencing population explosions. All right. So you have this to deal with as part of the social environment. Structure, which refers to relationship or bonds between groups of individuals in a society and include primary group structure, such as family members, all right, community, friends, voluntary organizations, associations. All right. So this is the primary group. Then you have secondary group structure, all right, where you find yourself, there's no emotional contact, right? So, for example, maybe in your office, okay, governments, okay, parties, you just go, all right, just factions, military and police, business, industry, labor union. So there, you find yourself there, all right, because you have to be there. So that is a secondary group structure. There is no emotional connection. All right. So they are a potent source of environmental policy for the formulation and implementation. So secondary group structure. So government, for example, can come up with policies, right, on how best to interact, all right, with the environment. Okay. Primary group structure too is good. You can reach out to them so that we can start teaching these things from home. All right, from home, from friendship network, that people need to be environmental conscious. So the primary group structure have a role, all right, in encouraging the culture of environmental sustainability. The secondary group structure also have a role in enforcing, all right, enforcing for enacting and enforcing environmental policies. All right, the number three structure, we have superstructure, which is made up of cultural superstructure, right? Arts, music, dance, literature, rituals, sports, game, science. Mental superstructure, right? Conscious and unconscious motives for human behaviors. The superstructure influences the way human interact with the environment, right? So, three levels of structure: primary group structure, family, friends; secondary group structure, governments, NGOs; then the superstructure. All right. For example, music. Somebody can just sing a song to defend the earth. All right. To defend, for people to be more conscious. You can have music, you can have movies. All right. Okay. There's a film I watched several years ago like that, Rio. All right, Rio is a very beautiful film. If you have not watched it, try and watch it. So it's part of superstructure. Rio is very, very beautiful. It's on environment, right? It's basically on environmental sustainability. Everything we've been saying since we started this recording, that's basically what Rio is all about. I think it's about a species of a bird that was about to get extinct. So it's only one male and female remaining. And so, wow, I need to watch that film again. So they need to now bring the okay, I think they have to bring one, I think from the US or so to Brazil, all right, to meet the other one so that they can start a family and the two, so that that species will not go extinct. Very beautiful, beautiful movie. All right, so that's superstructure. All right, they can influence the way human interact with the environment. Okay, fine. We're rounding up. Lecture three, the human economy and the natural environment. So, natural environment could be defined as the physical, the chemical, and the biological surroundings that comprise the Earth's endowment of life support systems. It includes air, water, land, living system, and even radiation from the sun. The natural environment is the supplier of all natural resources: arable land, land that you can use for agriculture; wilderness area, mineral forest, non-fuel mineral, watershed; ability of the natural environment to degrade waste and absorb ultraviolet light from the sun, and so on. These resources can be regarded as natural capital from which the human economy draws upon. The human economy consists of all the production and consumption activities of human beings. Such production and consumption activities can occur on land, beneath the earth's crust, in seas, all right, in the atmosphere. We are even going to the atmosphere, to the outer space now, all right? They said they want to conquer Mars. All right, so now, the human race. We've done all the doings on the earth. We are now going to the galaxies, all right, to start and see. They say that there are mineral resources also in the space now, and they are planning to also, exploit. Man, 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 man. Okay, we'll be here. Similarly, the complex physical, chemical, and biotic factors of the natural system act on man and ultimately determine human form and survival. Like we said, you have no control of the placement of some of these natural resources. In fact, all of them. All right. Even though we are trying now to create our own rain, create our own river, and so on. But most of the time, basically, all right, nature places these resources where whichever one it wants, wherever it wants. All right. So one characteristic of the human economy is that it produces intended useful products and some byproducts. The byproduct of an economy reconfiguration process is referred to as waste. Since the production of these byproducts is not the central object of reconfiguration. And now we have what is now called circular economy. Circular economy. Zero waste. All right. And that is one of the areas that environmental economics need to look at. All right. How can we ensure that we are so now, of course, it is now active. I see that in Nigeria today. I'm very happy. So you have you have a market now for for plastics, plastic waste. So you have a market for it. All right. You have a market for all manner of things that you will have looked at as a waste product before. So how can we ensure that the waste product of one company becomes the raw material of another company? And like that, so it goes circularly. So ensure that we have zero waste. So lecture three, the human economy and the natural environment. So I talk about the waste. The production of waste from any reconfiguration of natural capital is a necessary consequence of the first law of thermodynamics. All right, so people that read chemistry or physics, all right, can easily remember that law. The law says that matter is neither created nor destroy in chemical reactions, although it may be transformed from one form to another. All right? Some people will say energy, right? So energy is neither created, all right, or destroyed. So you can transform it from one form to the other, matter or energy, all right, but you don't destroy it. All right. So, like for example, you have paper, then you start burning it. All right. You look at it when you finish burning the paper, look at it, the paper has been destroyed. But it's not true, really. So what you simply have is that the paper has been changed from the paper you can see, all right, from to another form. Into now you now have the is it the smolders or the ashes of the paper, all right. Then some of the paper has now been converted to smoke. So the idea is if we can gather all the smoke that emerge from the burning of the paper, then the ashes remaining, all right, if you weigh the two forms, it will be exactly equal to the weight plus or minus of the original paper. That's the first law of thermodynamics. So, and this is the principle we are trying to use in circular economy, like I've said. Any waste from production and consumption activities are absorbed by the natural environment. So you are finished eating your rice and beans, all right? Then you couldn't finish it. Then there's a refuse dump behind the house. You go and dump it. Immediately you dump it, nature will take over, right? So you are going to have rats, you're going to have maybe other rodents. Then you have microbial, forces start to eat it up to convert that waste to, you know, and to nutrients, all right, for the soil and the plants that will grow on that soil. So any waste from production and consumption activities absorbed by the natural environment, the ongoing reconfiguration of natural capital in the natural system means that the system also acts as a recycling process. This recycling role of the natural system means that it is possible for the economy to continually reconfigure natural capital for human purposes and for that reconfiguration to be continually reversed through the natural system. So it's a cycle. Unfortunately, there are limits to the rate to which materials can be recycled through the natural system in this way. This is to say the natural system has assimilative capacity. Interesting. All right, I wish you can dwell on this area for as long as possible. All right, I wish I have the time. This, for example, in water, streams, for example, has what we call assimilative capacity. You can check it out. There's a lot of research on this. So if you have a flowing stream, all right, then you have one family dumping waste into that flowing stream. Maybe it's a new area, so there's only one house there starting out. So just the man and the wife and maybe two children. All right, so they have waste and they are dumping it into the water. Believe me, as long as that water is flowing, all right, that waste will not have so much impact on the cleanliness of that water because the farther the water carries that waste, it has been proven in research, all right, it cleans that water. So it's self-cleansing. They call it assimilative properties of streams or of river bodies. So the water cleanses itself. So as long as it can be dragging that waste for as far as long as possible, all right. That's why you see, streams don't smell or like ponds because ponds doesn't have that assimilative capacity because they don't flow. So as long as the river can flow, it will cleanse itself. But of course, that family, all right, so they have a friend, they say, oh, have you heard of this site? Oh, lands are cheap, oh, maybe you should move in before, the land starts becoming expensive. So another family joins them, all right, so becoming two families dumping waste into that water. The water will still be cleansing it. A third family joined them, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. After some time, you see that water will start smelling. Why? It has reached its peak. All right, throughput constraint. It has reached its throughput constraint, the throughput threshold. It has reached the maximum self-cleansing power. So they call nature sink in environmental technology or management. They call it a sink, SINK. The same thing I just explained with water, the same thing with a soil. So if you have a soil, right, and it's just you, maybe you are the only one living in a house, and you are throwing waste at the back of your house, there's no problem. It's only you, all right? Maybe you put like once in 2 days. As far as it's only you, nature will take care of that waste. As it's only you dumping the waste behind your house, nature will take care of it. All right, then you have somebody else joining you, somebody else joining you. So you have like 4, 5 people dumping waste that behind that same spot. It will become problem. All right. After like 2 weeks, all right, it starts smelling. Because of course the process of decomposing that waste is going to be slow. Nature is not fast. All right, it's going to be slow. All right. Of course, the rodents will take whatever all the ones they can take, but the microbial process to break down to decompose those refuse, all right, is going to be slow. And so, the more ways you have, it's going to overcome, the ability of that soil, the acidic capacity of that soil. Then we have a problem. That's what the first law of thermodynamics is saying. All right. So as long as you're generating waste and you are throwing that waste into the nature, nature would try to find a way to convert that waste to another thing that the system can use. So far, you have not overdone it. All right. So if human activities produces more waste that can naturally recycled, then there is a flow of waste in excess of our speech capacity. I've explained that this can cause the natural system to change in positively drastic and irreversible ways. I've explained that. I've used water, for example. I've used flowing stream. All right. So the water will start to smell. All right. Aquatic life will start dying off. All right. So it should be noted, however, that drastic and irreversible change in natural system is not due solely to human activities. For example, nature can rebel against itself. We have volcanic eruptions. All right. Volcanic eruptions can happen, and a whole community can be wasted due to that. All right. Luckily, it's not that common. The relationship between economies and natural environment can be explained in the form of material balance models developed by Alan Knies and R.V. Ayres. The material balance models are based on the first and second law of thermodynamics. This model considers the total economic process as a physical balance flow between input and output. So it's like equation, like it's talking chemistry. All right. Okay, so some things start as inputs, they are processed, and the system gives out an output. So inputs are bestowed with physical property of energy, which is received from the sun. The resulting output from inputs carry the same level of energy. Similar to this, there are waste resulting from consumption activities. Material and energy are drawn from the environment, which are used for production and consumption activities and returned to the environment as waste. So far as this balance is maintained, there are no environmental issues. Like we talked, as long as you maintain a balance, everything is regulated, there will be no problem. See, the nature will take care of that. So you can see that material balance model. Look at this. So you can see the connection. All right. So you can see the household. The households are helping to supply resources to the factor markets. Of course, the industries need resources from the factor markets to operate. So they are demanding for resources, land, all right, capital, and the rest of it. So the factor market is supplied by the household. Firms are supplied by the factor market. All right. Then, of course, households are going to need goods from the output market, and the output market is supplied by firms. You can see the firms, after using resources from the factor market, they supply to the output market. Then households, families will buy from these output markets. All right. And of course, you can't eat everything you buy, so there will be waste, right? There will be residues you don't need. Those residues are going to be thrown to the sea, to be thrown into underground, one well behind their houses. So they are going to throw the residuals from consumption back to nature. All right. But you know, nature too is kind, right? So nature too can also give the household resources from, from it. This is a very interesting diagram. Okay, so nature, so household can get natural resources, all right, from nature. All right, so you can plant vegetable behind your house, you can plant pepper behind your house, all right, and you get that. Okay, so natural resources can be drawn from nature, all right. Then firms also they too have waste, all right. So just that their own waste can be more toxic, all right, than household waste. But those waste too will be also be thrown back to nature. Mm. And that is this is where we now need regulations, right? This is where we need regulations. This is where we need international standards like ISO 14001 or ISO 14,000 series, all right, to help us. Okay. Um, so this is where environmental economics, all right, need to really help. So residues, all right. So waste from production are thrown back to nature, all right. Then of course, um, some of these waste, if we are sharp, right? If we are sharp, we reuse them. The three R's. So if you are sharp, we're going to reuse them, we're going to recycle them, we're going to recover them. So the three R's. All right. So reuse, recycling, recovery. So some of those wastes, all right, even instead of just throwing them to nature, we will recycle them back to factor markets. Interesting. So this one is getting better now globally, but we actually, on a good score. At least from my own personal observation, I think the world generally we're doing fine. All right, we're improving on this. So we reuse, recycle, and recover. So instead of just throwing them back to nature, we recycle them back to factor market, where they are recycled back to farms. I believe this is good. So households too, some of their waste, instead of going back to nature, we can also use the three apps. We can recover, recycle, and reuse, and get them to the factor market. All right. We have finally they will land in the farms. All right. If you have a question or a comment on this material balance model, please, I would like to hear from you in the comment section. Okay, so the figure 1.1 shows that the environment is the supplier of all forms of resources. All right, all our resources is coming from the environment. All right, renewable and non-renewable, and it's also acting as a sink. I mentioned that sinking for cleaning up waste. All right, so they produce the microbes. All right, the fungi, the bacteria that eat up, these are waste. You know that there are even microbes that eat up crude oil. They use them now. The microbes that eat up crude oil, they use them for oil spill cleaning. Okay, household and firms are connected to the environment, and they are connected to household and firms, all right, uh, depend on the nature of resources. Okay, I believe this is trying to explain. I think I've done this explanation, right? I've done this explanation. So, nature, we get our natural resources from nature, all right. Also supply resources to factor market. The factor market supplies the firms. The farms supply the goods to the output market. They also buy, all right, from the output market. All right, the waste from the household are taken back to nature, part of which is recycled. Products, all right, the waste from farms are recycled to nature. Some of them, they are passed to nature as waste, and some of them are recycled back to the factory market. Great, great, great. So I think I can pass. So let's move to second law of thermodynamics. Second law, first law says matter is neither created nor destroyed, right? But it can be transformed from one form to the other. We established that. The second law of thermodynamics is known as the law of entropy, right? Entropy is usually considered as a measure of unavailability of the benefits of energy or simply wastes, all right? Unavailability of the benefits of energy or simply waste. When one form of energy is transformed into another, say for example, when the thermal energy of coal is converted to electrical energy, there is a waste of energy and the volume of waste depend on upon the technological process. So even though we say energy cannot, all right, energy matter is transformed from one point to the other. Yes, but there will be a waste. I gave the example of when you are burning paper. You don't expect 100% of the paper to be converted to 100% of the ash. It's not possible, right? Because none of them are going to be converted to gases which are going to escape. All right. So unless we can come with a technology that can trap those gases. So so the second law of thermodynamics is telling you that there is possibility that in your conversion process, some energy are going to be lost. All right, depending on the sophistication of the or the efficiency of the technology you use. So this is where we need the engineers. All right. Entropy will be low when materials and energy are highly structured and organized. When a piece of code is kept idle, there is low entropy, but when it is burnt up, the same piece of code is subject to high entropy since heat and carbon dioxide are dissipated. But sometimes, all right, they may be unavailable for use. All right. Thus, the second law says that as long as there is utilization of material inputs and energy for production and consumption activities, the level of entropy will be high. And you find that in every process. All right, especially processes that involve conversion of energy from one form or the other. Look at what is happening in the oil industry. For example, this issue of gas flaring is the second law of thermodynamics. All right. So instead of flaring those gases, and you're just flaring them right into the atmosphere because it's cheaper to flare than to process them. Yes, that's what the industry says. It's cheaper for unless there is a regulation, all right, either externally or there is an internal adoption of a policy due to environmental, concerns. So it's cheaper for them to flare it. All right, but those gases that are being flared could have been redirected for other uses, for for other benefits. So entropy definitely has to do with waste that arises in the use of energy. So economic activities help to provide low entropy resources and energy into high entropy waste. That is resources into waste. All right. So economic activities cannot be stopped on account of high entropy, but at the same time, through recycling and waste management, it's possible to bring into the economic system low entropy value. So we can bring in engineering, we can bring in processes, we can bring in procedures that can be able to, all right, all those energy that could have been lost. You can find a way to, to harness them. All right. Like I read a story, of in Israel where they have the traffic, all right, high traffic environments. So normally you have high traffic, and of course, those environments you have high entropy, right? Horns are blasting, motor engines are running, all right, and so you have a lot of energy just wasting away, all right? And basically it's the fuel, right? They are using fuel. Okay, so you're using fuel, which is low entropy, but by the time you are using it in a car, all right, it becomes high entropy, all right? And so you have gas, you have heat, the engine is making noise, the engine is heated up, all right? The horns are flaring, and those energy are literally wasting. And what they did in Israel was that they simply came up with a technology that converts that energy on traffic environment to power traffic lights. That's great. This is what we were talking about here. This is what the second law of thermodynamics is saying relative to environmental economics. Look for those areas of waste in your processes and come up with processes, come up with technologies that can trap those wastes and convert them into something meaningful. And that's what they've done successfully. All right. So instead of just you are just in the traffic, all right. People, everybody's complaining. People are sweating. If you are not in an AC car, and people are just sweating and worried. But now you now know that okay, you're not just sweating in vain, all right, because that heat is being trapped somewhere and being used to power, you the streets later that day. That is basically what we are talking about. I also read somewhere, I think this week, is it in Japan? All right, where they now have floors. They came up with a technology that when you step on a particular floor, all right, that you're pressing on that floor can actually be used to generate electricity. So they now have it installed. In fact, places where people do exercises, like all these gyms. So instead of you doing gym, you are eating food, which is a form of energy, and you're just using it and you're just gymming and you're just jumping up and down. And at the end of the day, you just go and maybe go and just bath, and that is just it. So if we have that kind of technology on the floor of the gym house, where people as they are jumping, all right, all these activities, can we convert it into energy? There is a lot of opportunities there. There's a lot of opportunities there. And that report I was reading, they were saying, is it possible to even do this for a field, a football field? So imagine all the runnings footballers do. If you put that kind of technology to under the floor of a football field, imagine the volume of energy that will be generated after a match. So imagine the kind of energy. So like all this Premiership, La Liga, Bundesliga, all of them. All right. So imagine if you have that. All right, like in Nigeria, we are still struggling with energy and our youth like football. So if we can have, you know, a situation whereby we can place that technology, every nooks and corner, it means light will become given. All right, all over Africa, we solve that light problem. This is where, all right, this is the second law of thermodynamics. So in economic activities, there will be areas of wastes, all right, which you need to look at and see how you can, all right, redirect that waste into something meaningful. So use of natural resources, all right, but at the same time, with minimal waste or damage to the environment is considered as a key theme of sustainable development. It's a form of development path that is ready to meet the needs, not greed, of the present generation, at the same time without compromising the needs of posterity. Okay, so we must know that the environment discharges the following economic activities, the following economic functions. One, the environment is a supplier of all forms of resources. All right. Number two, the waste are cleaned up by the environment, so the environment acts as a sink. S-I-N-K. S-I-N-K. Number three, the environment maintains genetic diversity and stabilizes the ecosystem. And that's why we need to protect the environment, right? So, okay, so we're talking about the neoclassical perspective of the human economy and natural environment. The mainstream economies have a particular conception of the natural environment, including how it should be managed. The conception emanates from the classical and neoclassical dominant approach to economic analysis since about 1870s. The neoclassical worldview of environmental economic relationship is anthropocentric. This means that humans are treated as preeminent in the natural environment because the number one, Homo sapiens. Consequently, the human economy is rated above natural environment, and humans are regarded as the universe's most important entity. So everything revolves around the human beings. So the natural environment therefore exists to serve the human economy, and environmental resources have no intrinsic value. So they are just there for us. But we are knowing better now, right? We are knowing better. All right. Sequel to this worldview, the economy is assumed to depend on the environment for three distinctive purposes. A, the extraction of non-renewable resources such as iron ore, fossil fuels, and the harvest of renewable resources such as fishes of various species, agricultural products, forest products, to be used as factors of production. Two, the disposal and assimilation of waste. And number three, consumption of environmental amenities such as bird watching, canoeing, hiking, national park trails, observing the morning sunrise while evening sunsets. Thus, broadly viewed, the economy is assumed to be completely dependent on the natural environment for raw materials, disposal of waste materials, and amenities. Furthermore, since the earth is finite, there exists a theoretical upper limit for resource extraction and harvest and disposal of waste in the natural environment. The qualities of environmental amenities and maintenance of life support systems, such as climate regulation, genetic diversity, are also affected adversely in direct proportion to the amount resource extractions and harvesting and the disposal or discharge of waste into the natural environment. So it's all connected. The earth is there, yes, to supply our resources and even to also absorb our waste and also to give us amenities, all right? So you want to just go and go to what do they call it now? See safari. You want to just wake up early and see how the moon is rising or see how the money is set in the evening. So give us resources, give us opportunity to disperse uh, to dispatch our waste, okay, and also offer us amenities. But everything must be done in a balance. Like we said, there is throughput constraint. All right, there is a maximum at the sinking or the assimilative ability of the earth has a limit. You stretch it too far, we run into trouble. We run into trouble. So thus, as with any other branch of economics, fundamental to the study of environmental economics is this problem of scarcity. The trade-off between economic goods and the preservation of environmental quality. There are some fundamental assumptions that the standard economics approach uses in addressing this subject matter. These are outlined below. Number one, environmental resources are essential factors of production. You know that a certain minimum amount of natural resources needed to produce goods and services. All right. Yes, we need the skin, all right, of animals to make our beds. All right. We need cotton to make our shirts. We know that. Okay. Environmental resources are of economic concern to the extent that they are scarce. So they are not just there in abundance and they'll be there just take and take and take. All right. They can just we can eat everything up, all right, over generations. The economic value of natural resources, security service of natural ecosystems is determined by consumers' preferences, and these preferences are best expressed by a freely operative private market system. Market price can be used as a measure or indicator of resource scarcity, including the environment. We know that. So, of course, when something is scarce, what is going to happen to the price? The price is going to, jack up. Or basically, the price is going to be high. Okay. Um, in both the production and consumption sectors of an economy, a specific natural resources can always be replaced, partially or fully, by the use of other resources. They're either man-made or natural. We not look at diamond, for example. Now they are not coming up with synthetic diamonds. Right? Some people are still saying that even the price of diamond is likely to fall. So all those wow, we used to associate with diamond over some years now. All right, it's going to that wow is going to get seriously, limited because now you now have synthetic diamonds in the market. All right, technological advances continually augment the scarcity of natural resources. Nothing is lost in treating the human economy in isolation from the natural ecosystems, the physical, chemical, biological surrounding that human and other living species depend on as a life support. That is, natural ecosystem is treated as being outside the human economy and exogenously determined. So clearly from the above discussion, it should be evident that at the fundamental level, central to the neoclassical economics worldview, with respect to the natural environment and its role in the economic process, are the following four key issues. Number one, the market as a provider of information about resource scarcity. So there will be a market that will tell us whether a resource is available in abundance or not. Number two, the resource substitution. Can we get is and you see that playing out in the energy industry now, right? So we're trying to find a substitute for crude oil. All right, and it's fast, so we're seeing a lot of options, all right? Hydrogen, solar energy, all right, pico hydro, and the rest of it. So, so that will continue, all right, to play out. Scarcity augmenting technological advance and the nature of relationships between the human economy and the natural environment. So the ecological perspective of the relative between the natural environment and the human economy is biocentric. This implies that the human economy is not built in isolation from the natural ecosystem. All right? That's the ecological perspective. Human economy is not built in isolation from nature. So the connection is there. The basic objective of the ecological perspective, all right, is therefore to establish a clear understanding of the basic principles governing the nature, structure, and functions of the biosphere, and by extension, environmental resources, and the functional relationship between the biosphere and the human economy. So the ecological perspective of the natural environment is saying that you can't separate human economy from natural ecosystem, because basically human economy is playing within the natural ecosystem, basically. All right. So from a purely ecological perspective, these basic principles and leakage are defined as follows. Environmental resources of the biosphere are finite. You said that. Hence, environmental resources are scarce in absolute terms. All right. In nature, everything is related to everything else. All right. Moreover, survival of the biosphere requires recognition of the mutual interdependence among all the elements that constitute the biosphere. All right. If animals for now are endangered, we may be in trouble as human beings. So imagine if plants, all right, if plants become endangered, all right, what will happen to us? How do we get our oxygen? Through photosynthesis. At the functional level, and from a purely physical viewpoint, the biosphere is characterized by a continuous transformation of matter and energy. All right, so we said first law of thermodynamics, energy, matter is being converted from one form to the other. Furthermore, the transformation of matter and energy are governed by some immutable natural laws. Material recycling is essential for the growth and revitalization of all the subsystems of the biosphere, including the human economy subsystem. We've talked about the circular economy, right? The three R's. All right, so you have to be able to recycle, you have to be able to reuse, you have to be able to recover. However, measured as on a geological time scale. All right, okay, nothing remains constant in nature. Furthermore, changes in ecosystem do not appear to occur in an absolute linear and predictable manner. However, measured on geological time scale, the natural tendency of an ecological economic community is to progress from simple and unstable relationship pioneer states to a more stable, resilient, diverse, and complex community. Then the human economy is a subsystem of biosphere, and it will be dangerously misleading to view natural resources as just factors of production lying outside the confines of the larger system. All right, natural resources can determine whether human beings are going to be extinct. That's not the truth. All right, that's not the truth, and those fears are there. All right, maybe they are not shouting out, but people are. There is that concern. All right, even in my own research, all right, a lot of the things, even space exploration, all right, one of the factors, all right, that is motivating, all right, space exploration is that fear that one day the Earth may not be habitable. All right, that something may happen, all right, that may make the planet Earth, inconducive for human beings. So they are now basically, as a form of risk management, looking for other options in space so that survivors, all right, or whatever happened at that time can move, all right, to another planet, all right, and that is in high care right now. Right? So you have people that are permanently in space stations, all right, can confirm. So even now, so we have to be very careful about, all right, overrating economic activities over the sustainability of the earth. The natural tendency of human technologies towards the simplification of the natural system, eventually leading toward less stable, less resilient, and less diverse ecological communities. All right, so we just eat and eat and eat kill and kill and kill, take and take and take, until there's nothing left. All right. So you can see, the connection. We are getting primarily our energy is coming from the sun, right? So primarily our energy is coming from the sun, all right? And so we have inputs, all right? All right. So the economic activities basically is occurring within the biosphere. It's occurring within the biosphere. So you can't separate economic activity from the biosphere. And that is basically what ecological perspective is saying. So you have our energy coming from the sun. All right. So we have inputs. All right. So we have a product markets. All right. So the producers, all right, selling to the moving goods and services product market, and the consumers getting those goods and services from the product market. All right. The consumers, supplying the factors of production, and the producers buying from the consumers, buying from the factor markets. And of course, at the end of the day, we have outputs and all. So even the inputs and the outputs are still within the biosphere. So the ecological perspective is saying economic activities is going on within the biosphere. All right. Okay, so the figure above to portray a worldview that is consistent with these principles, and more specifically the ecological perspective of the relationship between the biosphere and the human economy. This perspective is biocentric in the sense that it does not explicitly recognize the main output of the economic system, the non-material laws of utility. It describes nature and interaction that occur in nature between living and non-living matter in purely physical energy and matter terms. These features are clearly evident in the following specific aspect of the figure. First, it's clearly demarcated circle, perhaps symbolizing the earth and its finiteness, representing the biosphere. So you can see that circle, everything is occurring, all right, within the biosphere or within the earth. Second, by locating inside the cycle, human economy is perceived as a subsystem of the earth, a subsystem of the biosphere. All right. Third, the figure suggests that the human economy is dependent on the biosphere for its continuous withdrawal, extraction, harvest of material inputs, and as a repository for its waste outputs, degraded matter and energy. All right. Fourth, the biosphere and hence the human economy requires a continual flow of external energy from the sun. You can see it. We need that energy from the sun. If not, all right, everything will go, will die. Fifth, while both the human economy and the biosphere are regarded as an open system with regard to energy, all right, the biosphere taken in its entirety is regarded as a closed system with respect to matter. Okay, module 2, some macroeconomic concept for understanding. Introduction in this module, we shall be concerned with 5 concepts in macroeconomic theory that aid our understanding of some of the issues in environmental economics. Such concepts will be considered, and these are the concept of scarcity, resources, demand and supply, market failure, externality, and property rights. What's the concept of scarcity in economics? All right. A scarce resource is one which, when offered to people at no cost, more will be wanted or demanded than is available. That's a scarce resource. So if they lower the cost, all right, more people will want to buy it than what is supplied. Notice that the opposite of a scarce resource is a free resource. Take notes. All right. So scarce resource, the opposite is a free resource. At no price, the quantity supply of a free resource, quantity supply of a free good, for instance, exceeds the quantity demanded, leading to a surplus. Since it's a free resource, even if we offer it at no cost, people will not bother. All right. Okay, this is economics. This is a supply and demand curve, all right? So this is price at the y-axis, all right? This is quantity supplied at the x-axis. Okay, so at zero cost, you can see here zero cost, all right? All right, at zero cost, okay, at zero cost, so you can see, like we said, for, a scarce resource, all right, for a scarce resource, okay, more will be wanted than is available. More will be wanted than is available. So what that simply means is that for a scarce resource, if you lower the cost, all right, demand is going to be more than the supply. All right, demand is going to be lower than the supply. All right, so look at, for example, here. All right, so this particular good is being sold for $50. All right, they now lower the cost from $50 to $20. All right, they lower the cost from $50 to $20. Look at what happened. If you trace it from this $20 to the demand curve, you can see that if you trace it down, 4,000 was demanded. The moment the price dropped, all right, for a scarce resource, 4,000 people quickly place order, sharp, sharp. All right, because the price dropped from $50 to $20. All right, 4,000 people made orders immediately. But how many goods were supplied because the price has fallen? So if you come here at $20, if you trace it to the supply curve, this is supply curve, right? So if you trace it down, you can see 2,000 was supplied for that scarce resource. 2,000 goods were supplied. All right. But 4,000 goods were demanded. Now, let's see what happened if we drop it further from $20. If you drop it to $10, what will happen? If you drop it again for a scarce resource, so if you drop it from $20, all right, you drop it to $10. So you come to the demand curve. $10, if you trace it here, come here. All right. So approximately the demand dropped to $5,000. Immediately people hear, they dropped the price from $8 to $10. People rush it. All right. So the demand increased from $4,000 to 5,000. So sorry, from 5,000 units to 5,000 units. What happened to the price? The moment what happened to the goods supply? So the moment the price dropped from $20 to $10, all right. So you can see the price automatically dropped. The goods supply dropped to 1,000 plus, maybe like 1,002. All right. So if you trace it from 10, let's say just 1,000. Yes, like 1,000. So the goods supply dropped from 2,000 to 1,000. All right. The goods supply dropped from 2,000 to 1,000. And the same thing goes, all right, like that. What about if it dropped from $10? If the price dropped from $10 to zero, you say, oh, it's not free, oh, all right, but it's a scarce result, all right, which normally the supplier will not be happy to sell at €0 or $0. Now, if it dropped to zero, all right, what simply happens is that this demand curve, you have to extend it, right, until it touches this particular x-axis. That's what it means. So if it touches this particular x-axis, it means that $0, you are going to have like 6,000 demand. This is what this is saying. About 6,000 units are going to be demanded, because then at zero, all right, then the demand cover to hit here. All right, so that's about 6,000 goods will be demanded. All right, but then at that zero, the supply curve, if you extend the supply cost to touch this axis, it means at $0, zero goods will be supplied. The supply is not ready to supply, but people are now demanding 6,000 people. People are demanding 6,000 units. The supply is not ready to supply one because it's not going to make money. So this is the supply and demand curve for a scarce resource. What this is saying that for a scarce resource, all right, for a scarce resource at zero price, the demand is going to be more than the supply. So it's going to create, so you're going to have basically a scarcity. People are ready to buy, but whoever is supplying is not ready to supply at that price. All right. That's why I explained, starting from that, you can even, trace it, you can even use 50. Look at it at very high price. Look at high price. So if you come here at that price, the demand curve is 1,000. 1,000 at $50, people are not ready to buy. So 1,000 goods were being demanded. 1,000 units were demanded. But look at the price. Look at the supply. Because the price is high, the supplier is happy to supply. The guy is ready to supply about 6,000, 5,500 units. The supplier is ready to supply 5,500 units, but the people that are ready to buy are only 1,000 units are being demanded. So it's just normal. So I hope you understand this curve. All right. If you need more explanation, you can drop your comments. You can drop your questions in the comments. All right. So notice that at zero price, all right, quantity demanded, all right, and quantity supply. So notice that the quantity demanded far exceeds the quantity supplied, creating a shortage of scarcity. That's what I've said here. All right. So if you look at this particular curve at zero, all right, at zero, all right. So we are looking at like 6,000 units being demanded, but the guys that are supplying are saying no, we are not ready to supply at that price. All right. So almost zero, units is being supplied. And that's $0 or $0. So there's going to be a scarcity. Okay. Now, what about for a free good? This now is not scarce now. It's just a good that is just there. All right. So at zero price, all right, the quantity demanded of a free good is smaller than the quantity supplied, which means there's going to be a surplus. So consider oxygen, which is freely supplied by nature. All right. The availability of oxygen from the ambient air supply far exceeds the quantity demanded in a non-polluted environment. Thus, oxygen may be treated as a free good. The demand and supply analysis for a free good is drawn below. Well, oxygen is a very good example just there. So look at the demand and supply analysis for a free good. All right. So you can see at zero, you can see the quantity demanded. So let's assume, let's say this is 1,000. All right, maybe this is 2,000. This is 3,000. I'm just trying to simplify it because I've learned that it's better to use figures. All right, when you're explaining a graph like this. So put zero here. All right, let's say this is 1,000. All right, this is 2,000. This is 3,000. So which means at zero price. All right, 2,000 is being demanded. All right, but 3,000 is being supplied. You can see. So because it's a free good, people are not ready to pay. All right, so you are not sick, God forbid. Somebody is now telling you that oxygen is being sold. All right, at maybe all right, a particular volume is being sold for maybe 500 naira of oxygen. You will just pass, is it not? All right, the guy already, he has got his, large volume of oxygen, extracted. All right, apart from maybe in hospitals, all right, that maybe people need oxygen, all right, to breathe, all right. But no, the normal guy outside there, all right, no matter how cheap the oxygen is, he's not interested. So this is the lowest you can find in the whole world. It's not his business, all right, because it's a free good. So that's basically what this curve is telling us. So compare that with the supply and demand curve for a scarce resource. Okay. Um, so economic implication of scarcity, considering that human wants for goods and services are immense and what's yet insatiable in a world of scarcity, what can be done to maximize the set goods and services that people of a given society can have at a point in time? So this question clearly suggests that the significant economic problem involves rationally limited resources to satisfy human wants. Accordingly, has the following four implications. Choice, right? Choice. The most implication of scarcity is the need to choose. That is, in a world of scarcity, we cannot attain the satisfaction of all our material needs completely. Hence, we need to make choices and set priorities. And this is basically what this lecture is all about. So we have to make choice between renewable energy and non-renewable energy. All right, some people are saying we must not even use renewable energy at all. Some people are saying no, no. So I mean, sorry, non-renewable energy. We should not use non-renewable energy at all. Everything should be 100% renewable energy. All right, it's a choice. So people are saying, okay, let's use a mix. All right, for me, I think I belong in that school. All right, so you can't just say we should blank out, fossil fuels. They are there. So why will you not use it? All right, but we should just use it. We should use it responsibly. All right, use the natural resources responsibly. That's a choice. All right. Opportunity cost. Every choice we make has a cost associated with it. One cannot get more of something without giving up something else. And that's why we are emphasizing this, all right, in environmental economics, in environmental sustainability workshops, seminars, and training. All right. So there is an opportunity cost for eating everything that is on the ground now. So you just see crude oil, you heat and finish it. All right. So as a nation, all right. So you have crude oil, you don't want to diversify. Because that crude oil is just there. So this oil, we can use it for the next 100 years. After 100 years, what happens? All right. So what about planning for the next 200 years today? All right. Today. So what can we do with agriculture? What can we do? All right. With exporting our culture. All right. What can we do? What can we do? All right. With in with technology, for example, what can we do as a nation in other areas that we can use to make money apart from natural resources, opportunity cost. So there is always an opportunity for gone. Okay, efficiency in terms of scarcity, no individual or society can afford to be wasteful or inefficient. So we're talking about that when we're talking about the second law of thermodynamics. All right. So what could have been a waste? What can you do to trap those wastes and use it for something beneficial? I gave an example of the people that turn just walking on a sidewalk and we are generating energy from it. All right. Hold up, we're generating energy from it. So things that could have just been a waste of energy, how can we turn those wastes, all right, to inputs for circular economy? Social institutions, as noted earlier, the essence of scarcity lies in the fact that people's desire of goods and services exceed society's ability to produce them at a point at a point in time. In the face of scarcity, therefore, the allocation and distribution of resources always cause conflicts. To resolve this conflict in a systematic fashion, some kind of institutional mechanisms need to be established. When we're talking about structure, we're talking about primary structure, family friendship. That's where it starts. So we need to raise, all right, environmental responsible children, all right? So social institutions, secondary institutions like governments, they need to come up with policies, all right? Policies, laws, and regulations that can protect the environment. All right, we're talking about even the superstructures like music, drama, movies. All right, they too have roles to play in ensuring that we get it right when it comes to environmental economics. Operation of a market-oriented economy. So in many parts of the contemporary world, the market system is used as the primary means of rationing scarce resources. Economic entities such as households and firms are the final users of goods and services and the owners of resources. In a market economy, given the resource scarcity, the primary is to find effective ways to address the material needs of consumers. At least in principles, consumers' well-being is the primary of a market-oriented economy. So it's all about household and firms. We want to make paper, we want to make soap, we want to make furniture, we want to explore, we want to do mining. It's only about family, household and firms, actually. But we must find a way to meet those needs responsibly. Market represents an institutional arena in which exchanges, buying and selling of final goods and services and factors of consumption, labor and capital and natural resources take place. Traditionally, economists group markets into two broad categories, namely products and factor markets. So it's either you are buying for your inputs, all right, raw materials and the rest, get that from factor market. And after you have processed the factors, you get your finished goods, you send them to a product market for people to buy, right? That's what they're talking about. So the product market is where the exchange of final goods and services occur. In this market, demand and supply provide information about household and firms respectively. We also have non-market public and private institutions. A market does not function in a vacuum. That is, for a market to operate efficiently, ownership rights need to be clearly defined and enforced. This requires establishment of public agencies designed to articulate and enforce the rules and regulations by which ownership rights are attained, relinquished, transferred, and enforced. In addition, competition in the marketplace is fostered through public intervention in some instances. Okay, the concept of resources. So, in broad terms, resources can be classified, this can be defined as anything that is directly or indirectly capable of satisfying human wants. So we can look at resources from two perspectives, all right? Traditional economics, resource classification, and environmental economics, resource classification, okay? So we're looking at traditional economic classification of resources. Traditionally, the economic notion of resources classify resources into three broad categories: land, labor, and capital. All right, I'm sure you know from your factors of production, right? Land, labor, and capital. The fourth is, the entrepreneur. So land, this refers both to natural resources, which are the stock of living and non-living materials found in the physical environment and which have an identifiable potential use to human beings. It should be noted that land is a very inadequate expression for what in a wider context amounts to the natural resources base. Of course, we know when you're talking about land in this essence, so what we have been saying, land does not exist in isolation. Land is connected to the atmosphere, we said that, all right? The land is connected to the water bodies, all right? So that is basically what that is saying. So traditionally, we have land, we have labor. Labor encompasses the productive capacity of human physical and mental efforts measured in terms of ability to work or produce goods and services. Entrepreneurship is often included under labor, if you will. Then, of course, we have capital. This refers to the class of resources that are man-made for the purpose of creating a more efficient production process. In other words, capital is the stock of produced items available not for direct consumption, but for further production processes. Examples, machineries, equipment, all right, and so on. So traditionally, this is what we call resources, all right? Economic assumptions about resources. Assumption number one, resources are factors of production. So it's real that basic resources of labor, capital, and natural resources are used for their direct consumption without modification. We see, basically they are inputs that still need to be modified. Hence, resources are viewed in economics as a means to produce final goods and services that are capable of directly satisfying human wants. This is to say that basic resources are a means to an end and not an end in themselves. All right? Assumption two, resources have no intrinsic value. So related to assumption one above is the notion that the economic value of resources is strictly anthropocentric. This implies that the economic value of any resource is defined by human needs and nothing else. All right? This idea treats human as preeminent as all other resources are deemed to exist for human economy and not for themselves. Non-economic value of resources are not considered. This has important consequences for the conservation of biodiversity. So if you just believe that animals are there to be eaten and to be used for human needs, all right, it will affect. So when somebody is talking about conservation, you just, what are you talking about? All right, they are just there now. All right, elephant talks. All right, you need it. All right, pangolin skins and the rest. So you're just looking at it. You're just looking at them as just there for human consumption. All right. So if you have that kind of idea, all right, conservation theories might not actually make sense. All right. Assumption number three: only scarce resources are of economic concern. So in economic analysis, each of the above resource categories of economic concern to the extent that they are scarce, that is found in limited quantities and or quantities. All right. Any resource that is not limited in supply is not of economic concern. All right. Why is it that we are prioritizing diamond? Right? Because they are scarce. Gold, because they are scarce. So anything that is just common, right? Don't bother about it. Like soil, for example, sand. Why will you bother yourself? But we all know that, all those things have their own value also. As option four, resources are used in combination. This means that to produce goods or service required that various forms of resources are combined together to effect transformation into the required goods or service. Fifth assumption, resources are fungible. What does that mean? This means that they are substitutable. That is, one kind of resources such as machine can be replaced by another such as labor, which is true in the production process, right? One type of energy, petroleum, can be replaced by another form of energy such as natural gas or renewable energy. All right? True. So variability implies that no particular resource is considered to be absolutely essential for production of goods and services. It should be noted, however, that variability does not in any way suggest an escape from general problem of resource scarcity because there is the extent to which resource substitution can occur in production. So resources are replaceable. I remember in some years ago, we used to use lead to coat water tanks. I'm sure you remember those days where they used lead to coat water tanks. All right, but later I discovered that lead is dangerous, right? Because those lead, they are also emitting into the water. All right, they are leaking into the water and they are causing problems, which can cause cancer. So they substitute those metallic containers, all right, for the plastic we are using today. I'm sure you can't see, like in Nigeria now, you can't see any tank that is using. For me, it's not that I see any tank that is metallic, using metal. Water tank that's made of metal. I doubt it. Nobody uses that kind of tank these days anymore, all right, because of the risk. All right, so we are now using plastic to replace metal tank because if you are using metal, it's going to corrode, and they use lead to address that problem. Is also causing cancer. All right, even though some scientists are also saying now that even the plastic is also leaching into the water. Okay, so we continue pushing until we get to El Dorado. All right, classification of resources. Resources can be classified according to whether they are replenishable or not. Thus, we have renewable resources, all right, and non-renewable resources. So renewable resources are resources that are renewable if they are replaced by natural processes at a rate comparable or faster than their rate of consumption by humans. In other words, renewable energy have a natural rate of replenishment sufficient to augment the stock. All right. So, for example, solar energy, right? So, you can't use up solar energy. That's the good thing about it. Or if you are using ocean energy, you can't use up ocean energy, right? So, you keep on replenishing itself. Okay. But if too much is harvested in some environments, the rate of replenishment may not be sufficient to leave enough resources for the future. So a very good example is crude oil, right? It's crude oil. Okay. If too little is harvested, opportunities for gains are lost. All right, that is, they are there. For example, in Africa, all right, Africa has sun. So why are we complaining that we don't have lights? All right, why are we complaining? Why are we having energy crisis in Africa? Why are we having energy crisis in Nigeria? It doesn't make sense. All right, with the abundance of the sun that we have, all right, why are we not maximizing it? That's what this is saying. So if too little of a renewable resource is harvested, opportunities for gains are lost. The harvest decision involves a comparison of marginal benefit with marginal cost. So if marginal harvest is greater than marginal cost of harvest more. All right. So marginal, the theory of the concept of marginal is basically an economic theory, economic concept. So that is, all right. So if I, for example, talking about marginal costs, if I produce one unit of goods, how much does it cost me? All right. If I produce another one, how much does it cost me? If I produce another one, how much does it cost me? If I produce another one, so the cost of increasing the production units by one, all right, is what is called the marginal cost. So if the marginal benefit of harvest is greater than the marginal cost of harvest, all right, harvest more. And if the marginal benefit of harvest is less than marginal cost of harvest, it means you should just leave that resource to renew itself. All right, to renew itself. Okay. So even renewable energy care is not taken, all right, you can over harvest them. So you have non-renewable resource. These are resources for which there is no replenishment or the rate of growth is so slow as to be imperceptible in human lifespan. All right, that they tell us that diamond, for example, so diamond is carbon. All right, carbon, just like the normal carbon you see in wood. All right, over maybe millions of years, subject to high temperature and pressure. So how many millions of years do you have in your own lifespan? So definitely that kind of resource is not renewable. So thus for non-renewable resource, natural rate of replenishment is negligible in terms of augmenting the stock of the resource. Examples include oil, gas, uranium, aluminium, and so on. All right. So the three stages of non-renewable resource use to consider in economics are exploration. When you are looking, you want to find whether there are resources there in large, in fact, not even whether it's there in large quantity, whether it's there or not, right? You want to know whether you can find crude oil there, you can find diamond there, exploration, then development. All right, like they will tell us in well engineering, you have exploration wells, all right, you have development wells, all right. So development, then finally extraction. So development is preparing for the final extraction and also to determine whether that resource is there in economic quantity. So during exploration, yes, you are finding oil, but you need to also do dig development wells to determine whether it's worth the efforts. All right, whether the what you are going to get in the oil reserve is going to justify all your investment. So you need development for that. Then finally, you move to extraction. So the exploration, development, or extraction decision also involves a comparison of the marginal benefits to marginal costs. I just talked about that. Okay, so that is it for environmental economics. All right. I will be finishing the part B. All right. There's still more in this study. I'll be finishing that in another video. I hope you have enjoyed this session, especially for the students of the Open University. All right. And other students and um, candidates of exams, all right, either in the tertiary institutions or professional examinations, all right, that are related to um, the studies of conservation, ecology, environmental economy, sustainability, and rest. So my name is Akinwale Akindia. If you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly try to do so to enjoy more videos from me. All right, thank you. See you in the next video.